Welcome to White Space, Data Center Dynamics weekly look at the data center industry. So, top news this week has to be Microsoft with its underwater data center.
Yep.
So cool.
I mean, it's nuts. I mean, we've heard about edge data centers, but this is taking it a step too far, surely. How does it actually work?
Okay, what it is they've taken a rack and they've sealed it in a watertight container and with an atmosphere of nitrogen just to make sure nothing ever catches fire. And then they've taken it out to sea and lowered it to the bottom of the sea, about 1 kilometre offshore in 30 metres of water. It's got a fibre connecting it to land and obviously a power supply cable, and it operates down there. They can monitor it. The initial idea was it's got loads of sensors. They wanted to check that it wouldn't leak, that the pressure wouldn't get too high, or all those things, that it wouldn't fail for odd reasons. But it worked, and it carried on working for 4 months, running about 29 kilowatts of power. In fact, it worked so well that they started to experimentally put down commercial Azure cloud loads on it even. So it's true that Microsoft has got a data center, a single rack, on the seabed, and it has served some Azure from it.
Yes. Because I remember we heard about floating data centers, and everybody thought Google is gonna build a data center with a barge, and like from time to time people surface who want to convert ships, the giant tankers, and just stick them full of data centers. But this is completely different, and I especially like the part where you fill it with nitrogen. I mean, yeah, that will work.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yes, there is Nautilus. Nautilus is the current front runner in the race to put a data center on a barge. They have done a test of a barge. These will be moored barges, so you can get the power and networking over the side from the dock. And the idea there is that because it's floating in water, you get free, easy cooling.
Yes.
In this case, even more so, the cooling they just have some heat exchangers on the outside of this data center, and the cooling happens passively. Slightly more wishful thinking is some of the justifications about this. They say 50% of the world's population live by the sea, so this would constitute an edge data center for them.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of difference between a data center that is in your seaside town with a door you can walk through to look at it, and it's a data center that is 1 kilometre out to sea with a maintenance plan that you'll only haul it up to do anything to it every 5 years. One comment we've had is that when that happens, the cost of doing that will simply wipe out all the other savings you've made. And also, way back, Microsoft came up with the concept of the data furnace, which is a small section of data center, a few processors that are broken out and installed in homes and offices where they produce heat.
Sounds like someone we know.
Indeed, someone who's been in the news this week. Let's go straight on, because Qarnot is a French company with one of the most fully developed implementations of this data furnace, which I first heard of in this white paper from Microsoft some years ago. Qarnot has these QRAD heaters, each of which has a few processors in it, which handle sort of things like bank risk calculations, graphics processing, things that are fairly compute intensive. The owner of the house gives the space on the wall for free and gets back heat for free. And Qarnot pays the electric bill.
Sounds fantastic. Where do I sign up?
You have to be in France for this one. The interesting thing here is that they've had investment from a conventional data center company. So Data4, a French data center company, has put €2.5 million into Qarnot. That's not a majority, it's not a controlling stake. The two CEOs see their businesses as very complementary. I spoke to them both last week. But the idea being that if you're a customer of Data4, you can have your loads and your work running in a Data4 data center, and when you have big mathematical jobs to do, they can be burst out onto the network of Qarnot QRads. This is sort of interesting in that it's a partnership between conventional data centers and these distributed heating ones.
Yes, and essentially it takes the whole district heating model to the places where district heating systems don't exist. So like for the rest of us, essentially, for the people who don't live in Scandinavia, this is the next best thing.
Yeah, it's getting a bit closer to Britain.
Yes. Meanwhile, I've been looking at the Pigeon.
The Pigeon?
The Pigeon. The Pigeon is LinkedIn's, I believe, first foray into hardware development.
I mean, the Switch vendors won't be keen on this.
They probably won't be, but I mean, what's done is done. It's a 100 gig switch. It can work as a leaf or a spine. It can run sort of rudimentary processing tasks as well. So it does have that capability of a server, and they will deploy it in Hillsborough in the upcoming data center, which is going to open this year. It's built by a third party. I don't remember who it is, but it's one of the people who have on the site all the time. And what they're saying is this is just the beginning. They're going to keep continuing developing their own hardware because, well, it also makes financial sense. I mean, if you have data centers like LinkedIn has them, yes. And they're all going to be named after birds. The actual reason for this is they have some program called Birds of a Feather, when a bunch of engineers come together and try to solve common issues.
Oh, right, okay.
And this is where it came out of. Was it Project Falco? Project Falco is the official name for the hardware development initiative, and Project Falco gave birth to Pigeon.
Yes.
And it's going to be interesting to see what they do next.
Right. Two things I want to know. First of all, this sounds a lot like the Open Compute. But it doesn't sound like it is actually an Open Compute project standard or project or anything like that.
No. I mean, obviously, so they're buying white box hardware in China, right? The chips inside are the familiar Broadcom chips, the Tomahawk. I think you've actually covered that. It sort of like came out 6 months to a year ago.
Okay, and I mean, is it going to be open sourced, available to other people?
I don't think it will be. There's no information on it. Basically, what LinkedIn did with this announcement essentially said, we're doing the same thing Facebook and Google and Amazon is doing.
Because, yes, Google and Amazon have their own switches. They don't share them.
Yeah. And it's sort of like it's a tried and tested model. And it's interesting because we're moving into the world where if you're big enough, this is what you start to do. You start making your own hardware. Exactly for your use cases. Very, very interesting.
Okay. A little bit of news from the cloud this week. There's always something going on in the cloud. This time, some analysts at, I think, Morgan Stanley have raised the possibility that Amazon Web Services, they are the leading public cloud vendor, could be losing one of its biggest clients.
And that client?
That client is Apple. Apple has got data centers, but it runs a lot of its iTunes, iCloud, all those other sort of Apple services for people that use Apple devices. It runs a lot of those on Amazon Web Services. Apple's data center spending has increased 30% over last year. It's got 3 new data centers opening, and these analysts are saying, doesn't that suggest something that maybe they might be bringing their processing in-house? It'd make a big difference to Amazon if it did this, because that's about $1 billion a year that Apple currently spends on the Amazon cloud, out of what we guess is something like 6 or 7 billion.
Exactly, and actually, this is there. It's kind of similar. For example, SoftLayer makes about the same amount of money, but if Apple takes away their business, SoftLayer automatically becomes a bigger cloud provider.
Right. Yes. So interesting to watch that one. I think that's all from White Space this week. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.